Thank you. Welcome to the Village Board work session for Monday, April 27th. I apologize for our late start. We had a couple of technical difficulties. Let's start with a roll call. Megan?
Trustee Briggs?
Here.
Trustee Banaski?
Evening.
Trustee Waka?
Hiya.
Trustee Nazarian?
Here.
Mayor Domeratz?
Here. Yes, we have folks here in the audience, but we don't have any official speakers for this evening. Does someone have a copy of the land acknowledgement? Do you have one, Heidi? Could you give the land acknowledgement, please?
So before we begin this evening, we'd like to recognize the Seneca Nation on whose ancestral territory we are gathering. The present-day village of Fairport sits on traditional Seneca land. The Seneca Nation, with the Mohawk, Cayuga, Onondaga, Oneida, and Tuscarora, make up the Haudenosaunee Haudenosaunee Confederacy. With respect, we acknowledge the people of the Seneca Nation on whose land we now live. We honor their past, present, and future contributions to and stewardship of this land.
Thank you. So we're going to start a new business, but I'm going to ask the board's permission to do new business 1 on the supplemental agenda, which is the appointment that we're going to do, and then go back over to special item number 1 from the initial agenda, and then we'll continue on the initial agenda. Is that okay with everybody if we do the appointment and talk about the DRI, and then we'll move on to other items?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that I would like to bring it up under new business is, can I have a motion by the village board to appoint Amanda Fant as a full-time member of the Historic Preservation Commission for the term April 28th, 2026 to December 31st, 2030?
So moved.
By trustee Nazarian,
Second.
by trustee Wojka. Any questions or concerns? I would like to share that Amanda was, she was an alternate for the planning board, and she's been on the planning board, and when one of the members from the Historic Preservation Commission moved to another position, she was asked if she would come on over here, and there's an open position for her to move into. I don't know if you've all met Amanda or not, but
Maybe once.
okay.
I think once.
Any questions, concerns further than that?
I was just curious, does she have any background in historical preservation or history or any of that?
Yeah, she has some, but there's also a lot of education that goes on within it, but yes, she does.
Okay.
Okay. Then with that, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Then we can call that, congratulations, Amanda. You are now a full-time member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and welcome to that particular commission. So from there, I'd like to move over to the original agenda, to item number 1, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, next steps. And Brian, would you be willing to share those, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So as the board's aware, we put a very good step forward this year to apply for the DRI. We were finalists. We did our interviews last fall. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting months and months and months beyond the point which we should have. But we did learn last week that we were not successful in that endeavor. However, we want to start planning for our next steps, right? I don't think that we should accept defeat on this. We have a great community, a lot to offer, and I believe we have the capacity to facilitate a DRI. We've talked about that a lot, and that's something that the state, Department of State, really wants to see. If they're going to invest and go through an endeavor such as a downtown revitalization initiative, $10 million, significant projects, and moving the needle forward, they want to make sure that you have the internal resources and the competency and so forth to facilitate these projects to end and not have them sit out there 4, 5, 10 years, as some of the earlier DRI programs did do so, right, as they're getting started and then learning how to work through these things in a way. The CFA, or Consolidated Funding Applications, they're going to be start rolling out next month. And those are opportunities for us to seek more specialized grants for smaller projects. I think that we should maybe look into see if there's something that, based on the initiatives that you can apply for CFA, if there's something that interests us, and see if we can be successful in that endeavor. But also, right around the corner, starting in August, we're going to start putting together that DRI application. So it's just a few months away. And we feel like we just got notified a few weeks ago. So, and I think we should. We have, it's an amazing opportunity. There's a lot of projects. We identified almost $90 million in catalyst funding, private sector funding to accompany that $10 million to meet those delta gaps. Bless you. Associated with these projects, and to get them going. In addition to our public projects in there, we have 3 or 4 really, really good projects. And those are projects that I see the village facilitating over time anyway, but they're expensive, right? We're $1 million projects. They're great things to capitalize on our public park areas and our canal frontage areas and other types of things. And so I really just want to hear from the board, what are your thoughts on that? Would you like to go back through this process? I mean, they're time consuming. It's a lot of effort, but I think it's an endeavor that we should. I think we will have a really good chance of doing it. It was a little unfortunate that, the municipality that won in our region has received 2 of them now. But, I think there's a lot that goes into that. And we've heard comments before that, we're in a better position than some of the municipalities. So they try to provide an economic stimulus to those areas that may not be in as much advantageous of an environment as we are. But in my opinion, you want to invest where there's returns, and whether that be with public dollars or private dollars, right? So I think that's something the board should consider, and we should continue to seek that additional funding and pursue these projects. And if we can do them with non-local dollars, I think that's worth doing. And we I think we should pivot on some of the capital projects that we did have in our capital program that the board just adopted that budget. What's waiting another 8 months to determine whether you get $10 million to do these things, and if not, then I say we put together a plan to facilitate funding and do it internally, right? Because these projects are worth doing. They need to be done regardless. But I want to get some feedback because we're coming up on these times where we got to start making provisions now to get assistance and engineering help and start looking at these. So I just want to have a conversation with you casually about, what are your thoughts on that? I feel really good about our position. I don't think I would change a whole lot with our team, with how we presented and the projects that we put forth. We did ask for, from the Region Economic Development Councils, we did ask for a meeting to hey, what did you like about our proposals? What didn't you like our proposals? Are there things that we can enhance or work on to better improve our selectability in the next round, right? So we can learn from this process. What they were doing is waiting from all the other municipalities that didn't get it as well to kind of seek that, and they want to go out probably with a boilerplate kind of response to that and so forth. But we are looking forward to that and meeting with them. So.
I'm going to pass it down the line in just 1 second, but what I wanted to ask you about was, I think one of the items in there was talking about Kennelly Park and that railing that's running along the park and the canal is significantly out of date in terms of safety. And I know that there were some canal-based grants that passed over my desk, and I think I probably could we look for something, not so much that we're gonna redo the whole park with it, but for just a spot fix of that railing over there, if that would be possible to look for some kind of a grant to do that sooner than wait for later.
We most certainly can, and we could customize a rail to go on there that kind of matches what we did on that the northwest side. And probably select the same fabricator to do that. However, as long as, your future plans might have some ability to access that area more, maybe do some decking or some overhangs or some opportunities to really see the canal in a different way. Going through a Canal Corp work permit and engineering analysis that they're going to require for something you would seem to be fairly de minimis in a fence, and how you core drill that in there is not as easy as it probably should be. So I just want to ensure that if there's something that you plan on doing that you might want to do that fence may or may not be in the way of, then I would probably just hold for one more year. And if you're not successful, do it. But if it's something you really feel confident about and you don't believe you're going to do any of that, then yes, we can do that. The answer to your question is yes, we can.
Or can we look for a less expensive stopgap that's more temporary?
sure.
But that doesn't look like we're putting up snow fence.
We're not going to put up snow fence. Or I would recommend that we not do.
I know it was on our list of plans to get some updating there, but maybe we can look for something and.
So is that the board's desire to
I'm just
find
putting the
a
idea out
fencing
there.
mechanism?
How do you all feel about that? Would you like to just wait and see if it comes around for another DRI? Do you want to ask staff if they can look for some, I'm just talking about the fence that's along Canale Park.
Yeah.
That's probably, if it was put in today instead of,
Yeah, it doesn't meet
probably
the
from
standard today.
1977.
It wouldn't legally go in today.
It wouldn't legally go in today. So I'm just listening to feedback that I've gotten about the safety of that fence, and if we can find a stopgap to try and look for a temporary solution, as long as it, like I said, doesn't look like we're
I mean, let me ask for this then. You're talking about a temporary solution. We could put something up there and affix it to the existing rail to provide some additional safety barrier. If that's all you're looking for to get you through a year till you find something permanent, sure. Or do you want to go out and just kind of manufacture a fence that's going to look there? I just want to make sure I'm clear about what you're looking for as
how
far
does
as
the
that
rest of the board
scope.
feel? I personally would say, let's find something that's
Because I
temporary.
can add that on no
we'll live
matter
through
what.
for a
Anything
year.
else that we do is going to require a significant endeavor and process through Canal Corp. So that's. I just want to know before we go down that road I want to make sure I'm clear about what you're asking.
And I think that's really funny, because when I questioned them about it, they said, oh, that's your fence. You
Well, yeah.
fix it.
But we'll have to go for them for everything, so it's kind of.
I would support some sort of in-house way to make it a little more safer, completely temporary.
For short term, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense than spending money and then if we want to make something a little bit more elaborate later, spending money again, like.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree, yeah.
So I also agree. I'd be curious just to know, would we still have to go through all of the same stuff we'd have to go through if we did?
No, I mean,
Okay.
we're just gonna
We
come
make
up
sure
with
that it meets sort of
semi-decent
in terms of.
ability to some woven wire. You can get it. That we're gonna affix to that and wire it to the existing panel. Make it look as good as you can for the time being, with safety in mind. And then, should we not be successful in our next application, which we should, then we can look at something more permanent and nice and beautiful and aesthetic that meets all of those desires and kind of has an historic charm and feel to it and so forth. But to your point, I mean, those get expensive very quickly. And then if you start, again, core drilling, removing all that, you're going to do structural analysis, they're going to make it what seems to be a simple process a little more challenging, a little more, a few more steps. So.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. As we figure out what that would be, I want to make sure I know what to expect as well, just in terms of general aesthetics. I know we're talking temporary here, but obviously we're not talking the snow fence, right? We're not doing that. But yeah, something that meets code, that looks nice but still has that temporary.
You're going to be in the ballpark of a galvanized woven wire application affixed to the existing rail. I mean, what else do you really do, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, like I've spoken with folks like in the neighborhood too who have shared some of the concerns that you've heard as well.
Yep,
So,
I've heard them.
yeah.
Okay, we'll do.
And the architect, the code part of my architect.
It's not gonna be architecturally beautiful.
Oh, no,
It'll
but I'm
be-
just saying the
it'll be
code part,
functional.
like, my
I'm gonna be
brain looks
clear
at that
about
and goes like, ooh, we got.
You're not gonna be
something
blown
there.
away.
Yeah. All right.
Brian, could you share with the village board, once you get into this, like what cost we're looking at, or give us a picture of what we can
Sure,
kind of guess?
most certainly,
Yeah,
most certainly.
I would appreciate that.
More than
Thank
happy
you.
to.
Was there another part to that question that you were asking for feedback from?
No, I got exactly what I want. When you get what you want, you move on.
Okay.
Well, so if I understand correctly too, you're saying, also, do you want us to say, yeah, go ahead, keep moving with the DRI, reapply this fall? Were you also asking about, go ahead with the CFA?
I am
consolidated
asking for
funding
that
allocation?
because we need to, staff has to start planning for that now.
Right.
There's a process that goes in place. It's a lot of work, a lot of engagement, input. The CFA stuff's coming really fast, and there's
Right.
not a long time frame, so we're gonna have to just put some stuff together and see what we can get. I really want to dive into the programs that are available to see if there's something that's more of a need versus a want, right? Because a need is something we're gonna have to pay for already. So when you see grants, the number one rule is to do for the things that you'd have to do anyway first, and then enhance that need with more aesthetics, whatever. So if we can find something that's there, fine. But you know, this village needs a lot more than I think the wants are, right? I mean, infrastructure projects are expensive and so forth. So let's see what they got. Let me take a hard review at that, and then if I see a program that might fit something that meets our needs, I'll say, hey, you know, this is something out there. I think it might be feasible for us to apply and be successful at. These are some initiatives that I think might fit into that category. What are your thoughts? And we'll put something together. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. In other words, you're looking for what's the stuff that seems feasible, that
Yeah.
we have stuff together for that isn't
Yeah,
gonna.
I mean, I don't
take
want
up
to throw
too
it
much of your
together
time.
just for the sake of submitting something. If there's
Right.
something that makes sense, that's worth our time and money and investment, then let's do it, right? To seek a grant for the sake of seeking it is, I wouldn't do that. But if there's something I think that can really work for us, that's a need, and it's something that's I say a liability is a wrong word, but it's a capital investment that's required for us, and we have an asset that's depreciating that's going to make sense for that, let's do it. Why not?
Because, yeah, I think that's July, and then you would need some sort of an approval from
They're,
us.
they're
make
starting
the-
to do those applications in May. I think they open it up.
Right.
So you don't have a lot of time. And you know how these things, they go really quick. It's not like we're sitting around all day long just putting together a CFA application, application. So if that's something we're going to do and want to start planning for that now and building in the time in the calendar to make sure this is correct. If we're going to go through the process, I want to put our best foot forward.
Will you be working together with OSET on that, or is that primarily just
anyone.
us?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the group?
No, but I would support moving forward with any of those CFA grants that make sense and reapplying for the DRI for this coming fall.
Is that desirous of the most of the board?
Yeah.
Now, I know the DRI was like right at the same time we were having public engagement for the zoning. And it was like all happening at the same time. My questions, you addressed some of them, that getting feedback from the state and seeing how we scored on certain areas to see if we can improve our application and make a stronger application. But as a board member, I don't recall ever seeing the final application that was even submitted. Could we see that again?
Sure.
And
We sent it, but yeah.
okay, and the public comments that were shared, the public comments when we did our engagement
Yep.
to get the community support for the DRI. Can we see those
Yep,
public
they were
comments?
provided as well and part of that application. We can definitely do that. That's how we came up with the projects that we solicited, that you guys authorized in a resolution at this table.
Yep.
So that's how it came up with those things. They came directly from those initiatives. But more than happy to submit, to share with anything you'd like, certainly.
Okay. So we're not talking about really altering the application at all?
I don't
just
know. I mean, I think,
resubmitting?
even though it's only I think it's a year apart, communities change, priorities change, if there's new initiatives, new properties that come up, new developments, new ideas, we can always look at that, right? Clearly, just submitting what we submitted initially wasn't enough. So how do we enhance that, embellish it, maybe find more appropriate projects, or at least verbalize or present our projects in a way that meet the state's goals, which housing is, it's the big, bold beast that's out there, right? And they want it to be tied to that in a lot of ways. We had an 80 unit plus initiative that was in there. And, the community that won had a 30 housing unit there. So who knows how these things are done? There are a lot of connection points and a lot of other variables besides just the application and an interview that go into how these things are done, the communities and where they're situated, how they're selected, especially when the final vote goes from the governor's office. So, but just because we weren't successful this time doesn't mean we won't in the future, and I don't think we should accept that as our final answer.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Okay, then we'll close that item, and let's move on to item number 2, which is special event facilitation and discussion. Before we even take a look at this, I've gotten a lot of feedback from a variety of members of the staff that we are getting so many applications in such a rapid succession that we get them virtually every week. And with us still being in the process of hiring a police chief and getting our police staff up and hiring a code enforcement officer who is integral in many cases to helping to facilitate these events, I am going to make a suggestion to the board, and it's open for discussion, that before we even look at this board, this form, that I would like to suggest that we consider a temporary moratorium on adding any new events to the schedule until January of 2027, and we are fully staffed. Some of my concerns are around the fact that code enforcement is very necessary. DPW plays a large role in many of these events, and the fact that Jason is now balancing the DPW and code enforcement, and Jill is balancing planning and code enforcement until we get somebody in that position, I'm very concerned about burning out our staff. I would like us to have in place our full lineup of police officers so that they can properly play a role in planning that's necessary for these additional events. And I just think that our staff has continually asked us, weeks after weeks, of we need to know where the village board wants to go, because we're getting applications all the time. And in this process, they don't know what they're supposed to tell people because they have not gotten a clear answer from the board in terms of, should we actually be taking on more events? Especially, like I said, with us being down a few spots on our very small staff to begin with. So I'm putting that idea out. That is non-binding. I'm just asking for people's feedback. And we can start anywhere that anybody would like to talk about feedback. You want to go?
Yeah. Are we still going to talk about the form or the process, even if we pause for now?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Well, they're sort of connected, so I won't go into the questions I have about the agenda item number 2, but I think it might be smart for us to take a pause. I don't know. I guess it would be up to.
And I want to make sure I'm really clear. Anything that's already normal on the
yeah.
schedule, like Home for the Holidays, Scarecrow Festival, October Festival, Music Festival, canal days. I'm not talking about street parties. I'm not talking about anything like pausing those. Those are all regular items
Just
that are
approving new
always on the schedule. I'm talking about new items coming onto the schedule that I really don't know that we have the bandwidth from a staffing perspective to safely facilitate those events. So I hope I'm clear.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I
interrupted
have questions
you.
when we talk about the regular agenda item, but in terms of the pause, I think it's probably smart.
I'll pass down the line.
I'll go. So I agree. I think the moratorium on events would be the wise decision, considering we were so tight on the budget and we are short-staffed in quite a few areas. I think the safety of our residents and the safety that people expect coming to an event in the village of Fairport should be the priority. And I do not want to burn out our staff. I do not want to put that burden on the taxpayers for more and more things. So I agree. I think we can hold the line where we are now, and then we need to kind of figure out how we're gonna direct staff moving forward.
Adam?
Yeah, I think it's certainly worth considering what's, how we want to address these moving forward, especially, given all the new attention that we're getting recently, and in terms of our festivals even becoming more and more successful. But I agree with Sarah too. I'd like to see how this also interacts with the event facilitation and how I know there are two that are outstanding that for us to kind of talk about. So that it's probably worth even looping back around between the five of us to see how that might impact things, both in terms of the folks who have sent in the app or who have expressed an interest, as well as the impact on staff. So I think it's good to have that conversation. I think it's worth bringing it up. I guess what I'm saying here, though, too, is I want to have more of a dialogue, like right now, about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, still have some questions. I'm looking forward to the dialogue. One of it was we have two applications that they've been waiting for answers, so don't know where they fit in. And
I think that we can talk about them individually. I think one could probably move forward. I think the other one is going to be too large and it's going to be too much for what we can handle. And when I'm saying this about pausing the events, I'm not talking about if you're holding this in a private, I'm in a private parking lot.
Right.
I'm at Mulconry's or Iron Smoke or Fairport Brewing. I'm at any one of those locations. I'm talking about like our parking lots, our streets, and all it takes to facilitate those things. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
And they're more than just two, by the way. There are people that have. I'm glad it's a good problem to have, that people are desirous to come here and want to use a really great community to host their event and to showcase their offerings, right? And they know that it's a place where it pays dividends with respect to people coming out and engaging in those events and those types of things, right? I mean, there's people every day that, they want to do food trucks and food truck rodeos and yoga festivals and using the Liftbridge site, and there's always something. And right now, we kind of play it off or see how long they if they really have an interest or not. There's just tons of interest, and We haven't been pushing those too hard to make them come into fruition, because I'm just not sure how you want to go about facilitating those. Do you have a desire to do that? What are those impacts? What's the onus on us that you're willing to accept versus the applicant itself? Because I want to be forthcoming when we have these conversations and we start really looking at the validity of these things and the feasibility of these events. We want to be clear and upfront before we get too far down the road with the applicants for these potential events. What are those expectations that they have and that we have, and can those meet in a very short conversation? And if that framework works, then great. Let's see if we can facilitate a successful event. But right now, I just don't know what that is yet, and we want to make sure that when we're speaking from what you're willing to do and what you want to do, right? Because anytime you utilize a public space, you're taking that away from public use or other types of things. So we just want to make sure that if we're pushing those initiatives, just to have an event is not worth just doing it. So are we pushing events that we think are good for our community, that put our best foot forward, that enhance the offerings that we already have, and those types of things? And once we have a clear ideology and direction about what that is, then we can definitely facilitate these things and bring you successful applications that are worthy of your decision making and commentary, right? But right now, we just want to make sure what that is. And right, we do a lot. I mean, I think the existing event schedule, there's probably 35 or so on there, which is great. It's wonderful. There's always something going on here in any given month, and they're really good quality events that bring a lot of great people here and celebrate the seasons and the different things that are happening. So we can take it for what it's worth.
So I need to get more feedback, because we're going to have to make a decision on this tonight in terms of where we're going with this. Tracy, if I know that you were talking about 2 events.
That we know of as board members, idea.
Right. And do you want to, what's the best way? I mean, I'm trying to facilitate this, but what's the best way for us to handle this? I mean, do you want to just talk about the 2 events and then go back to this?
We can, but I just think it's disingenuous for the other folks that have expressed interest too. And we just haven't brought forth a lot of stuff or tried to push it through with applicants that are interested, because we're not sure where we're at, right? And it's really about, are we having events for the sake of having them, or are we having them because we're trying to bring in, we believe it's an economic vitality tool for the village, and do we need economic vitality with where the village is at already, right? I mean, certain events are brought in for those types of things to be a stimulus. Do you believe stimulus is still required? I mean, it's that kind of conversation about what you want to bring in, or is it something where, hey, we're really missing a really cool sector that we could be offering with respect to festivals or different types of things. I mean, there's festivals don't always have to be around a music or a beer tent. It could be with something really cool that would bring people out, that a different type of group that you might want to see. We can go out and seek those things on your behalf to say, let's bring in something really, really neat to the area. I've always wanted to do a kids carnival or something different than what we normally do, and those types of things, and make it as free as possible. But I think it'd be really fun and cool for a weekend to do stuff like that. But I'd like to see us be the initiator in some of these things and come up with some really fun, more, not so much like large festivals where you're marketing toward Monroe County's other areas, but like things that we do for our residents, whether it be camping and moving in a park, or a movie outside, or a various, come out and grab a glass of wine, listen to music somewhere downtown. Like, these are things that aren't that complicated. They don't have a heavy resource load, right, that we can do that bring high value to our local residents, where you're not trying to go out there and really push it. You're trying to bring offerings and community building to your local residents. And I think those are really, really important versus always trying to market something for a bigger thing. It doesn't have to be this massive endeavor. But again, those are just thoughts. We need to know from you, what does that look like, and what would you like to promote? And we can make those things happen easily.
So let's get back to this whole idea of a moratorium. Is it helpful for people to think about this in terms of perhaps events that will involve more than 100 people or 500 people? I've also, perused that. I really think that we need to give, outside of the normal schedule of what we're used to, we need to give our staff a break so that they can rebuild themselves, and that we can also talk a little bit more about how do we build the structure in for events as they're coming into the village. Today, yes, Canal Days has a long history, and they have a big staffing that builds together the event. But we're getting a new code enforcement officer. We're getting a new police chief. That it's helpful if you have, when I was just at the FPMA meeting, not the last one, I think the one before that, they were talking about that a couple of people were moving into new roles. So they were going through and helping to build that legacy information so that someone stepping into that role would have it. And I think we are not doing our staff the appropriate thing by saying, okay, we're not going to give you anything to start with, so stuff that comes in, make it up as you go along, versus I have a framework, and that framework has a starting point so that we can figure out how this event is built. And there's lots of groups, Canal Days, Oktoberfest, Music Fest, they already have a framework that they work from, and they should be able to take and impart that information, and maybe this form is just the basics, and then the rest of the information gets imparted from them as an attachment, because they've already built out that structure and they've built out that information. But I think it's appropriate for us to have something for our staff to go year to year and event to event, so that when they sit down with the person who was coming from the yoga festival and said, okay, I want to do this. Well, here's a starting point. Let's get some basic information about how big is the event that you're looking to do, and what does it consist of, and what do you think you're going to do? Because maybe there's another solution on private property that we can suggest versus the time that it takes to clean up after an event. Some other thoughts that I had about this were, if we can have 2,000 people out on Church Street for 2.5 hours multiple times in the last 6 months, and every time the spot that they were on was left cleaner than when they got there, because I've walked up and down the street, we should be requesting of that of all the festivals that happen in this village. If you walk around, if there's an event here that happens on a Friday night and you walk around on Saturday morning, it's not unusual to see, I don't know where they come from, but there's beer bottles all over the place or beer cans all over the place. And whether that's a case of really enforcing with the different events, you must have your security keep alcohol and cans on the site for you to clean up, then that's maybe what we continue to do. Because if they can't maintain it that way, then we need to start asking these different events to go around and clean up after themselves every night. Because as I walk around on a Saturday morning in this village, I've seen plenty of stuff. And it may not just be those events. It may be people who leave from those events and then go to bars in the village of Fairport and then wander out of bars. And that's a whole nother different topic that we need to talk about. But it's certainly events that have alcohol have their own challenges with them that I think are really big for right now, and maybe too big to add anything new.
So one thing, I'm trying to, like I said, we were floating between, right, the moratorium and also the special event facilitation discussion, right?
I'm trying to touch on
Yeah.
more than just one so that we can make some decisions about what we want to do with one thing and then work on the second thing.
Right, exactly. And I think it's good to keep in mind, at least especially this year, as we're looking to, to staff up on the various departments that we are looking to staff up on. What if, the one thing, like you said, one thing we could do is, do we say on large events there's a moratorium, on small there's not. In terms of new events, things that are new. But I guess the other side, as I think about it, it's also possible to have too many small things at the same time as well. So, do we have a sense of like what would be considered, from a DPW standpoint, what like a small, quick, easy thing where it's, I was going to say small pennies, but we're not making pennies anymore, small nickels. From that standpoint, something that really wouldn't be a load on. Do we have a sense of what that would be? Is it just kind of setting up a barrier or something? Or
I think street parties would be a good example of there's not a heavy load to lift
Right.
to facilitate a street
and
party.
that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we should
Right.
stop any of those.
Right.
Those are a very light lift.
Right.
At least they were last time I checked.
Right. I guess I'm just saying, like, if there's other events that folks are looking to do, and that's really all that it requires, are we saying, okay, fine?
Well, is it on a public street? Is it shutting down a street in the middle of the village? So I think there's more
Right.
than, if it's a neighborhood party like that, I think that's one thing. But if you're going to shut down a street or shut down a parking lot, I don't know about you, but all I ever hear is that we don't, whether I believe it or not, I hear that we don't have any parking here in the village of Fairport.
Right.
So when, we have events and they're asking us to shut down parking lots for 3 or 4 or 5 days,
And they require the inspections and all the permits to be pulled. That's obviously more that our staff has to be on top of. Right. I guess what I'm trying to do here is figure out, like, are we saying, like moratorium on all, or on all things outside of what you kind of described? Or are we saying little things are okay, or are we saying we're okay adding 3 more little things this year?
I don't know that you can say it's okay adding 3 more little
Right,
things
that's
when
right.
you don't know what those are.
Right. But I'm just,
I think
that's
you're
why
better off saying, can we have a pause on anything new so that we can give everybody a chance to get into their positions and we can figure out a better, more, a better process for facilitating these, and also so that we're not pushing our departments so far.
Right. Because, and where that's a little bit of where that's coming from is, like we said, there are at least 2 that we knew of. We know there's more that we don't know of. If we were talking about those 2 and we said one might be easier to allow than the other, trying to balance it out with kind of Brian's point, it's like, okay, well then, what do we say to all these other folks who are proposing something small?
We can set a date that this moratorium begins. We can, so, you could say, well, starting tonight, or starting June 1st, or starting June 30th. You got to pick a line in the sand and
Right.
say, where is it that you want to choose?
I actually like that idea better. The idea of, we could even say, May 15th. After May 15th, we're not entertaining any new, I just threw that out there. I don't like the idea of starting tonight. I don't know. It feels,
I agree. This was just kind of thrown at me, whether I think it's great or not.
Yeah.
I do like to have we're not accepting any more applications past this date, and we will process everything we've got in the hopper.
right. Yeah,
Whether
'cause-
we approve them or not, or
Yeah,
whatever.
it may or
Right.
may not get approved.
Yeah.
right.
No guarantee on anything being approved, but
Yeah, I think if you
would
say
that
May
not
15th, it's not like somebody's going to
15th?
throw together a festival in the next week.
I know we can.
it doesn't mean it
I'm
has
just
to be
asking
approved.
for feedback from you
Yeah.
as well.
Right. Can we do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can do that. You can do whatever you want.
And what, the side conversation I
Of
just
course
had
you
on the
can.
side, Brian's like, you can do anything you
Oh, yeah.
want. And I go, but I'm asking for
Yeah.
some feedback from our staff
Yeah.
through you. Would that be helpful if we picked a date and then said, we'll process everything that we've received up till this date, and we're not accepting any new applications, and just because you've submitted an application before this point in time, you still, if
Doesn't
it's
guarantee.
brand new, you may not get, or, you know, if it's not something that's on that regular list that's been going,
Right.
it may or may not get approved at this point in time.
I think that's fair to say, like, after May 15th until January 1, no new applications will be entertained for this
Or
year.
applications for
For,
For the-
festivals not already kind of recognized as
right, the ones
established.
that are already in are, yeah.
You know, and the whole thing about this is, the big question is this something that you're trying to do that is going to be on public property, that's going to require a bunch of resources from the village?
Right.
I mean, I think that's really what this comes down to. It's, you know, there may be things that people, hey, I have an idea and I want to do, so let's go back to the textile festival. They wanted to do it on public property, but the suggestion was made, why don't you see if you can find a private property that you could do this on? If it's just a short window of time, it's not multiple days, it's not like you're gonna have hundreds of people parking. See if you can find something that doesn't require village resources, but that maybe you could handle in a private situation.
I think it's fair if we give people a window.
Okay?
I think the window is good. I like the idea of choosing a date and saying we will process whatever we can, or we will process everything up until this date. It may or may not get approved, and then we can kind of regroup. We can figure out what the structure is going to be like moving forward.
Well, we can have our staff
Yes.
figure out from their perspective what they can and what they cannot facilitate.
Right.
And we can go through this forum and talk about, you know, with them, this is what they're asking for, the bare bones requirements that they need to know. And I'm not talking about the funding per se. We're talking about understanding what this entails. And I'll use an example. I will try and keep it somewhat veiled, that someone wanted to come in and do an event, and they wanted to shut down a parking lot. And they said, we're gonna come at 8 o'clock in the morning for our event that's gonna happen that day, and we're gonna set up that day. And in conversation, the conversation back to them is, well, are you expecting to start early in the day? Because people are still gonna be parked there from the night before. And, oh, well, no, I don't want them there when I get there in the morning. I need to be ready to set up and go at 6 or 8 in the morning. Well, okay, that means we need to shut down the parking lot the night before. And then when they said, okay, our event's gonna end at such and such a time, it's like, well, okay, are you planning for how much longer beyond your event it's gonna take for everybody to clean up? And there are parts of this that I just don't think we necessarily recognize or applicants recognize. And I think it's important that we find a way to help our team facilitate that. I feel like I've just talked in a big circle.
No, it made sense.
Totally made sense.
And a lot
was
of
a good
these are
circle.
where what the board needs to determine what denotes when somebody's willing to or can just for instance, I'm gonna have my son's birthday tomorrow, and I want to use Lippers Lane West or Fairport Junction lot to have his birthday and do a thing. What constitutes the ability to do that and not? Right? Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all for whatever we want to do, which is great and it's fine, but at some point, you can't pick and choose how you want to do that. So there needs to be some collaboration from the board on what are the types of events you're trying to do, what are you trying to promote, right? What are those things that check the box for, hey, this is a benefit and an endeavor we think enhances the village and is worthy of that said use in that time and that removal of the asset in order to effectuate this festival or this event, this party or whatever we're doing, that meets that thing. Because right now it's really challenging to say no to somebody because right now it's going to be available. Well, I just don't like it, or I don't agree with it, or I don't like the color blue, or I don't believe in your political issues. Because one day you're going to get an application from a vendor or an applicant that you probably won't agree with, right? Or may have some other things, and then now you're just saying no. There will be litigation after that. So I mean, there just needs to be, and this is a good problem to have, right? I mean, a lot of places don't get to say, hey, we're getting to the point where we have to start denying things because the desire to be here is so great, and we have more demand than what we have supply and resources for. It's a great thing. This is something that you shouldn't walk away from feeling like, this is a good thing. So now you get to be choosy and picky and say, hey, these are the things that we like. These are the things that maybe our community likes. Maybe we do a survey saying, hey, if we could facilitate certain events or parties, or like just a little, I truly think just getting some good community activities. What are those? And if they're reasonable and we can do them with, little resources and so forth, maybe we can facilitate some of that stuff of our own. We have some great sites. We have Lithbridge Lane West. Hopefully that, we met with a developer the other day, and they probably won't be opening till, this is the old Machete building, till late fall or even next spring. And but you have that site now where there's no more construction and things like that. So let's start planning for some really cool things to maximize that potential in the space that we built, right? To host those types of things. But right now, yeah, we're just I just want to know, so when these things come in, it's like, gee, I don't know, and you want to take it for 4 days. Is it really worth it? Because a one-day event is not a one-day event. It's shutting it down the night before. Then you need it for an additional day because you have setup, and then you have takedown, and then there's just all these things. That's just naturally part of an event, which is okay. But with those events comes significant resource allocation, and then I got to plan for it, and then there's police resources, and there's public works, and I mean, I can tell you that our resources internally we've squeezed the lemon enough where there's no more juice for the existing schedule that we have, and it's really, really strenuous. We're not the little small village anymore, right? And so the hype that we get, the engagement we get from these things is good, right? And it's maximized. But I'm telling you, with the existing setup that we have in the existing structure, our ability to take on a lot more is slim to none, right? So it needs to be, what are you really looking for? What should you be adding to the plate or not adding to the plate? What does that look like to you? And if there are things that you want to do, are there costs associated with it? I mean, how do you take a private event and give them all these resources and you don't charge for it? If somebody wants to say, hey, I want to do a yoga event, and it's part of a yoga place, I'm just saying that in general. I'm saying for whatever it is. But you give them all that for a private event, and it's for their expense, but then it costs resources, allocation, public works, electric, all these things that come into play, and we don't try to recoup from that. So there's just, and it could be whatever you want it to be or not to be. But for right now, we just don't have any guidelines of how you want that facilitated. So when I go into these conversations and they promote these really cool ideas, I don't really know how to respond to one of those things. So I just want to make sure we're facilitating what you guys want.
I'm going to plop this right in the background, that according to the New York State Constitution, whether you are giving services or money, or whether it's for a nonprofit organization or a for-profit organization, it's actually against the law. It's against the New York State Constitution. And I certainly think there is plenty of value that happens from having events in this village and the good feeling that people have about this village, whether it's Canal Days or Music Fest or Oktoberfest. But ultimately, if you go look at the New York State Constitution and start reading through it carefully, I mean, there's a balance that you have to make, but if you read through it, you're actually in violation of the Constitution. We are in violation of the Constitution every time that we give away use of public property for either a not-for-profit or a for-profit. I don't want that to be, I've got it written on it's sitting right on my desk, because you look, Tracy, you look like, that can't be true. Well, it is true.
No, I have a lot, not just that. It seems like when you came in here, this isn't about an application. I see this as a much bigger conversation.
It is.
I mean, you've talked about what types of events and philosophy statements for the village. That really doesn't have anything to do with the application. I have thought about, we offer services like Liftbridge Lane West, and exactly what you said. I can show up with my tent, invite all my friends, serve liquor, carry on, trash the place, and leave everything overflowing, and, oh, we spilt the cake and walked through it. That's fine. We don't even have to ask permission to do that. So that I see as a gap, you know, so there's lots of
and
other
it might
things
be.
involved. And I also see trying to, at our first shot at this, include everything in one application. And I don't think you can. Because
don't.
we almost have to decide on chunks, you know? It's like neighborhood party, no brainer, don't fill out this 8-page form, you know?
No, well, we just need to know about it and document it. I just want it to be equal about how people go about it. This has never been about a special event application, and it's been like this dirty word that's kind of gotten around this community. It's a place to document an event, and we keep focusing on an application. It's not about a special event application. It's about facilitating special events in this community on public property. That's what the conversation's always been about. That does nothing more than document the request. That's all it's ever been. That application does nothing else. It doesn't say anything else. That's what we're trying to do. That was nothing more than so the board sees something uniform when these things come in. You know, you understand what you're looking at. You can go to page 6 and it's like, hey, these are whatever they're requesting, and it's just uniform and you can do it versus a lot of backdoor conversations. Trust me, I'm your village manager and I've got it taken care of like we've done it for the last 20 years. And we got it taken care of. And we always do, right? So we're just trying to formalize that process. It's no different than what we do now. It was just trying to uniformly document that to the best that we can. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all catch-all because there's always these things that are unique. And you know what? Grab a piece of paper, make a supplemental sheet that whatever that doesn't cover, and you do it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but
There needs to be something.
But it's just something. But what we're looking for is, and you guys should, we've come to a time when we can be picky, we can be choosy. The demand outweighs the resource allocation that's existing on the books. So what would you like to focus on? What would you like if you have that opportunity to facilitate certain things, whether that comes to us from a third party or we go out and seek that? What are some cool things and initiatives that you would like to propose and facilitate on behalf of your residents that might bring the quality of life and placemaking some great attributes here? That's a good thing to do. We have facilities to do it. We have the desire to do it. We just want to know what that is. But we're constantly getting interest, which is awesome, from people about hosting something. Wouldn't this be great? What do you think? And when I get those, hey, what do you think about this? While I may think it's cool, is it something you really want to do and utilize public resources for? And that's where we want to start looking at. And if we can start saying, hey, if it meets these 10 criteria or the parameters that the board sets up, if I can work with, if I know the ballpark we're working in, we can make these things happen or not. Hey, by the way, you know, while your event sounds really great in nature, the board is really focusing on X, Y, and Z. These are the parameters. And if you can't work within that, then I'm going to tell you it's probably a no-go before we go. So I'm going to waste your time. You're not going to waste our time, right? And if you are going to do it, these are the costs or the things that we're going to require, right, that you make sure that you handle, whether it be security or trash removal, or these are your responsibilities that we're going to enforce. And if you're not willing to meet those criteria, then maybe we can't facilitate your event. And that's just kind of where we're getting with some of these things. I mean, every conversation we have with someone that's interested and really giddy about a project, again, which is awesome, There's always holes in their, hey, they just look at, hey, the positives of an event. Well, an event, it's just like wedding planning or whatever. They take a lot of time. We have people in here that host events all the time. They take a lot of time, a lot of energy. They are comprehensive. Something simple always has 40 other things tethered to it that you didn't think about. And we end up planning these things. And before you know it, something that seems like, oh, let's do a 5K is a really challenging thing to do when you really look at it. And we have somebody right now that wants to do a marathon that starts and ends in Fairport. Awesome. I think it's great. It's active transportation, using the canal, ending in Fairport, having that notoriety, really, really neat. But when we met with them and they were all ready to go, it's like, well, what about X, Y, and Z? They haven't thought about the 64 things outside of, hey, there's a start and finish line and people just go run. It's a big thing. How do you do that? How do you get them here? If there's 500 people doing that, where are they parking? How are they getting to your starting locations? When they start to get here, where do they congregate and muster? Well, right here on Lipbridge Lane West. Well, now you're taking up a parking lot that's public, but also how do those other businesses that want to capitalize on that event being there, right? How do they get people there, right? So is that at the expense of those businesses now? So you start having those conversations, and it's okay. So you start seeing some of the holes in the proposal. And I think all things, or most things, can probably be worked out, but they take time and effort. And I don't want to go down the 21 steps of figuring that out if this is something that the board, in theory, may not be an interest in doing.
Right. I
Right.
think that it's really important that we have a baseline. I think the form, whatever it ends up being, has a baseline, because it's difficult because everyone has a different setup for how they present things, and I think having the form would give us a baseline. We can have the criteria on there, and it gives us a better idea of what the expectation is for our staff, for our resources, and then you can add whatever you want to, like, embellish whatever it is you want to send along. More information is always better, but I think having the form and having it filled out regardless of the event, I think would be a good place to start, because it gives a baseline.
So just spitballing off the top of my head while we're talking, I agree with you. There are so many factors. I have directed 5Ks, and you don't just show up and run. It's a lot. There's a lot. So can we put on there, on the form, a checklist of what would be the impact or the expectation of the DPW, law enforcement, setup and cleanup, closing of lots and streets, and impact on local businesses? And honestly, this is something that, knowing we're having this conversation tonight, it's great if you have a big festival in town and you're a food and drink establishment and people pop in and whatever. But if you're a small business and you're trying to stay afloat and now your street is closed off, that business is probably not getting any business that day, because unless people are rolling in to go to a music festival or go to a big eating and drinking, basically street party, you might not go into the used bookstore that day. And so I think we have to think about the impact on businesses that are not celebratory in nature when these other festivals come in. So I think a checklist of what those things, I think the applicant needs to consider those things. And I will say right now, since I'm yapping, when I joined the board, I was astonished that a group using all of those resources didn't have to pay. When I was a class advisor and we had a school event in our own school's commons area, we had to pay for security and custodial staff out of whatever $75 we made. So it's absolutely crazy to me that the village it provides all of this for free. So again, considering what we're asking of staff, DPW, law enforcement, setup, cleanup, everything, all the resources. I'm not saying they have to. A festival director would have to pay all of it, but some fraction to help defray the cost to the taxpayers. Because if we're going to start having all of these events, which again, I agree with you, great, I love it that everybody wants to be here, but that's going to be on the taxpayer's dime, and I'm kind of uncomfortable with saying making the decision for all the taxpayers that we're just gonna hand that all out for free. So just throwing that out there. But I do think we can make a checklist on an application.
I think there's the misconception that we don't bill back to the festivals for services. It's not completely free. We're not providing all of this for free. I mean, we talk about an overtime wage. We talk about the application fee. They provide their own security. They're expected to do cleanup. So I don't want it out there that that it's all free to these festivals. I know that
I didn't mean to misspeak. I know that there's a certain amount, but like we are still asking, any festival that comes in is still expecting more law enforcement, more cleanup and setup, more effort on the Department of Public Works. Like it still is more work for the village that we would then pay for. Is that not fair?
I think it's through mutual aid.
There was a whole section in the budget that was money that was set aside because we're trying to defray some of the costs that was put aside in the budget.
But I do know when our emergency services, that's through mutual aid if we need additional fire and additional police officers, in addition to what we require of the festival. I mean, that's mutual aid, which I believe doesn't have a cost.
So am I wrong? It doesn't cost the village anything to host festivals?
I never said that.
No, that's what I mean. I already said I may have misspoken saying it's free, but it does cost us to host a festival, yes?
Of course.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
Just to go back originally, because that was on my question, I didn't know we were going to go all the way into this moratorium and philosophy of what our festivals should provide. We went on a nice tangent, and it's good that all of these things need to be considered. But originally, a year ago, when we put this application in, or the mayor said, let's try it for a year, it was to collect data so we could have some accurate numbers for a festival, a large festival would require. And we have 20 years of experience with some of these festivals, 50 years experience with Canal Days. So we can go back and say, a real estimate cost is, this is how much we paid in overtime, these are how many hours, this is what the crew cost. Part of this, implementing it last year, was to get all that information and analyze that data to better have information moving forward.
I feel like we had that discussion with Jason when we asked him how much DPW funds are we utilizing for an event, whatever it is. And I'm pretty sure he came up and he said there was, he gave us a number. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he gave a number that was above and beyond what I didn't know that we charged anything for festivals, but Jason had a number for us when we talked about it in the budget.
If the board would like that data, we have that. I mean, the overtime cost for Public Works is a de minimis amount according to what you do to set up and prepare for that. And again, it's not all about just the money, but to sit there and say that there is, and not everything's a payment, because some of the benefit is having that vitality and that what that event brings into the community and those types of things, and the commerce and so forth. But the significant amount we do on duty that's not overtime related is significant preparation for these things, and then the cleanup and the restoration and everything that's required of that. There's $50,000 a year in police that we don't touch, and in the mutual aid side of it, it's really hard to get those folks behind the closed doors. If you want to talk about, it's FBI, it's SWAT teams, it's sheriff's office. We facilitate that behind the scenes with a plethora of meetings and time. They don't have to do that, and they're starting to push back, saying we just don't have the resources and the time to do it, because they end up paying that overtime to do that. And it's significant to do these types of things. And if you don't do that and go above and beyond, heaven forbid, there's an incident, you didn't do enough, or you could have done more. And because you didn't want to pay for it, or you didn't want to facilitate that, now there's maybe a negative an outcome, right? So you go above and beyond in these types of things. But it's at the expense of something always. And again, I don't want to just focus on the cost. What it's really about is a comprehensive look at, if we're going to do this, and because the demand or the desire is there and it's exceedingly getting more desirous, what does that look like for you, and what do you want to do? I mean, we don't want to have 1,000 conversations here with people, give them hope, if it's not something we can do. So is it, do you want to add more? Do you not? And if it is, what does that look like? That's all I'm asking for, some direction from what that is. I just
I
don't
don't think that
know.
question's going to get answered tonight.
I don't expect it to get answered tonight, but it's just a conversation we need to start having.
That's why I'm asking for them to pause,
Yeah.
so that we can have some time to have further discussions about what that looks like, with some framework of details, whether that's discussing this form further and getting a better idea of the best way to facilitate the overall structure that our staff needs, or for us to have conversations about what do we want to see in this village. But that is why I'm asking for that pause, so that we can sit and continue to discuss this versus go through these loops every single time that anything gets brought up about events.
Yeah, if so, we talked a lot about the event form, but I think what we're saying here is right. Like you said, Brian and Julie, and I think it's pretty well understood about everybody here. We need to iron these out, because you need guidelines for how to determine what might make it through the gate and what might not in terms of approval. Because like you said, we've got people interested in being here, which is great. That means that the things that we've been doing are in alignment with what people are looking for in a place that they want to be. But that does mean now that there are things, that certain criteria that we'd have to guide it by, brainstorm just a little bit. I mean, like, there's just first off our internal capacity to do it. At a certain point, you could pay as much overtime as you want, but maybe you start losing folks, right? What's the attrition from that? What are the types of events that we're interested in hosting, right? And the different types of categories. What are the locations? How many? How long is it going on? What's the anticipated attendance? All these sorts of things are what we need to discuss. And so that's what we could be doing after this moratorium. If we, should we implement that, then we could do that moving forward. Because also, to kind of your point, Brian, too, even though the overtime might be de minimis, if you're spending time helping with the setup, that's also a way that money is another way that you measure the resources that you're spending, right? And that could be time that somebody else from either DPW or Fairport Electric could be doing other maintenance and work.
Think about
So that's,
every
I think that's all
event
part of the
we have
conversation that we need to have for the rest of the
and
year.
how much time it takes to put up all the new parking signs all over this village. Not just,
Let's use a simple example like the marathon, right? Just as an example. Somebody wants to do a marathon here. Before we can even determine whether it's feasible or not, somebody says, I want to do a marathon here. Okay, great in theory. Before we can even put something on paper to even show you guys what's going on, there are 10 people around a table, 5 hours, 5 or 6 different meetings just to iron out, hey, does it even work or not? What are you really looking for? What's that happen? I mean, we're just talking about significant time, analysis, staff time to determine even the validity of is it worthy even coming here, right? And this happens a lot. So is it we need to know is what that looks like first before we start going down that every single time there's interest.
I guess just then, as well as earlier in this conversation, I see also some of those preliminary conversations, because, Sarah, when you did your first event, we want people to check off things. If people have never done an event, they don't really know what they don't know. So that's part of these conversations when someone has this great idea.
that's the value of having a form that gives you some guidance
Well,
of
I
what
was-
you need to think about.
I was also seeing an opportunity here to use some of our community partners to take some of that off. Whether it goes to the partnership or to the merchants or a committee that looks at this once a month. Instead of it taking it off of the staff, do I have to plan this person's whatever retreat or a one-day event? We've got other resources in the community that we can work with. Because as you describe all of this stuff, I'm struck by, it's not really gonna it's not gonna free up any of your time or the staff's time.
No, they take time, so that's why we're trying to figure out if there's an interest to continue to do these things. And I don't know how a third party would understand the capacity or what we have the ability to do or
I
when we
agree.
do it.
I don't
From an
think a
outside
third party
agency, how do they
understands what we
understand the
do.
facilitation of village operations and resources? How would they know that and be able to speak to that?
I think there is a way to have some mechanism in place that has the initial conversation. Do you know what you really need? Do you know all of that? Before it goes, there's introductory steps first. And I think once we've had some of these bigger conversations about what is our philosophies, what are our benefits to the, to the community? Do we already have 3 festivals like this? You could have guidelines for a committee or a group of people, volunteer group from residents, that could easily help sort out and weed out and work with
I'm going
some
to
of
ask you to
these-
keep your comments to yourself, please.
to work.
Thank you.
I just see a great potential of being able to share some of this. Even if it's a group of 3 volunteers that know what they're doing. We've got event planners all over, or people that used to be event planners. If the village can give them a guideline and they're willing to be a volunteer group to help weed some of this out right from the beginning, I think that's a benefit before it even gets to you and your staff. Something to think about.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's what I'm looking for. If you guys provide a framework and the guidelines, we can weed it out very quickly. Right now, we have nothing to work from, so it's this big area of gray that we're working in. If you provide that to us, we can weed it out very, very quickly about the validity or feasibility or the desire to do these things. That's what we're trying to get.
Maybe we need a committee to come up with that framework,
I think that it's important for the staff, who are the ones who have to do this work, to be the ones who create this and facilitate it, because it's their job, it's their part of what they do every day in this village. Someone who is a volunteer, while it's wonderful that they want to volunteer and help out, or work as an organization, they do not work in this organization and understand there are some things that the law allows you to do, some things that the law does not allow you to do. I don't think there's the right level of experience.
One thing to clarify what I said before, and I know I wasn't explicit, but like where I said DPW law enforcement, you wouldn't, I didn't mean like you'd ask the average person like, what will you need from the Department of Public Works? Because I agree with you, they wouldn't don't know that. But if you say, what kind of setup assistance will you need? What do you intend to clean up yourselves? Will you need extra security? Will you need to close off a street? Will you need, all those things? Electricity run in for your event. Then so the checklist might be a little bit more prescribed, but that would allow for that person to think about beyond just their specific 3-hour, 1 day, whatever it may be, event, specifically asking them those pointed questions about what their needs will be. It might help, at least from the jump, to help the staff see what they're looking at.
I was
Okay,
just-
go ahead.
I was just thinking, I think we're kind of beating this to death, and maybe we
So
make it.
here's what
I
I'm
feel
going
like we
to
could keep
ask
talking about this
the
all
board
night.
we can.
there's a
This is
lot
an
more
introductory
to cover.
conversation. We understand now it's bigger than just something
Yeah,
simple.
it's a lot bigger.
And it is, and that's okay.
is.
But I
wanna start working
need us
toward
to
that,
make a
is what I'm
decision on if we're going to pause things so that
Right.
we have time to think
Yeah.
about this.
Yes,
Can I get support from the board to pause?
yes.
Do you want
Yes.
to pick a date to put in the line, to put in the sand?
What's the date today?
Today is
27th.
April 27th.
Do you want to go like 15 days from today, or?
It's fine. Is that okay with you,
Hold
Brian?
on. Let's see.
Why don't we say May 15th?
Let's
Okay.
make it simple.
Hold on, what day of the week is May 15th?
Saturday. No, it's a Friday.
Well, then good.
Friday's good.
Friday, yeah, end of the week, Friday, done. Lots of good conversation.
Do you want me to make a motion? You'll have it recorded and then you can write it down. Or I can. Do you want an official vote? Okay, so are we agreed May 15th?
Yes.
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 Are we agreed that we will put a pause until January 2027 with the exception of existing events, and that any events that are come in front of us between now and May 15th, we can't promise that they'll be approved? Okay,
Yes.
so then, I got that. This does not apply to street
Block party.
Neighborhood
That's what I was
block
gonna
parties.
say.
neighborhood parties.
Why don't we come up with a list of what we talk about
Yeah,
vaguely
I think,
of,
I think neighborhood parties is probably it in terms of the.
Neighborhood parties, block parties are great. You want to promote
Yeah.
those. That's wonderful.
oh, right.
So
Yeah.
those are,
Those
those are
aren't
a
a big
low,
That's different.
I really think out of
a
anything
bear
that
thing.
someone could come here with,
Yeah.
those are repeatable things that are pretty low requirement. They don't require a lot.
I was just suggesting, just having like official documented list of, Home for the Holidays. That's one of our reoccurring
Yep.
events. Just get it written and documented somewhere.
Well, we have it. We have the list of our festivals that we do.
Alright.
already.
Megan
I
and
mean,
Brian
that's-
will make
that's-
sure that this
Well, they're already
becomes
published,
a.
Fairport festivals and everything else. I mean, those are the
okay.
35 events that we do every single year that we've always done. That's already published. Yep.
All right, so we still have 2 outstanding events that they need an answer on. How do you want to handle that? Do you,
You guys can discuss them. You have the applications. I just need to know what you want from them and what
do we have
restrictions
the,
or what
do
not.
we have applications from them?
I sent them to you today. Yeah.
Because I don't have any motions on here or anything like that. Thanks, Brian. Now I gotta get in my computer.
It was requested that you receive them today, so I sent them to you. One of them was for an art little festival or exhibit in conjunction with Canal Days on Railroad, and another one was the use of Fairport Junction lot and
Yeah,
God knows what else for the Steel Rail Revival for a music fest kind of event and bands and that type of thing. Kind of similar to what you see the Music Fest, but just contained to that site for an open band. I'm sure I think Steel Rail will still work with the local establishments for, bands within the bars and restaurants that are participating, but they were looking to enhance that this year with an outdoor live band venue on a public lot.
let's take one at a time. It'd be nice if I could put my password in correctly. Hang on. Okay, I don't know why we're not cooperating. Just,
I can't get on mine either. I'm doing it on my phone.
okay. Pause for a moment. Did you send him this afternoon, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
If that would be
I think I
advantageous.
just found it. Okay, in addition to agenda for work session?
This is the Steel Rail.
It was sent at 3:59 today.
So the first one, how about if we start with Railroad Street artwork? Street Market, and the location is Village of Fairport, adjacent to 3 Railroad Street. Event date Saturday, June 4th, 10 to 6, and Sunday, June 7th, 10 to 5. Those would be the same dates and times as Canal Days, in case you didn't notice. Railroad Street Artworks respectfully request permission to utilize the Village of Fairport-owned parking spaces on Railroad Street to host Railroad Street Art Market, curated outdoor market featuring local and regional artists. This event is designed to complement the energy and visitor traffic of Canal Days while providing an additional destination focused on fine art, handmade goods, and creative entrepreneurship. While adjacent to Canal Days, the Railroad Street Art Market will operate as an independent but complementary experience, encouraging visitors to explore more of the village. Local artists and businesses, event description, and hopefully you all see that. So closure of Railroad Street for the daytime hours to accommodate the vendor. Vendor set up at 7:30 each day. So what time is Railroad Street gonna close?
It's closed for 2 days, and they open it up at night like they do Main Street. I mean, that's what it's saying
Okay,
here.
what time in the morning?
Vendor set up at 7:30, vehicles cleared by 9:30.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, event opens at 10.
Does our DPW need to have access to that
Yeah,
street? That
that's always the problem. I mean, how do you stop us from mobilizing? I can't get vehicles off of the bridge. That was why we denied it last year, because I can't get my vehicles out, and I can't take anything over a passenger vehicle over the Thomas Creek Bridge. So it's really, really challenging that you do that. And if it's full of pedestrians, which it's nothing against events, I don't take it that way. But how do you maneuver through that when there's all these people? If we got to mobilize, what do you do? And that's the challenge with that closure. It's the same thing we discussed last year.
Sorry, so as a quick refresher, when do we shut down Main Street during Canal Days? What time?
9:30.
Maybe 9 or something like that, or an hour or two before they do it, because they got to start getting everything ready and moving. And maybe I think it opens at noon, so it's at 10 o'clock. I think it shuts down. 'Cause I think the event- I think
it
the
opens
event
at
starts
10. So
at
the
10,
hours
it'd
for
be like
Canal
that.
Days are, it was right here, I just read it. Hang on. Canal Days opens at 10 and closes at, why can I not? Oh, it's up higher.
I feel like it's 6.
On Saturday, it's open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, it's open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's when Canal Days is open.
Right.
It's up to you guys. I mean,
She's not looking to close on Friday, right?
no, just those 2 days.
Those 2 days. All right, so I'm going to ask everybody on the board how they feel about this.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know mobilizing, because the DPW is at the end of that road.
Yeah.
What types of stuff would we need? Is there, I understand an emergency situation, you want to have access to everything possible. Is there any way to have that at a different location, ready to be accessed if it needed to be?
I just don't know what you're going to need till you need it. That's the thing. Can we make it work? Sure. It's just one of those things where we're cutting off our ability to do what we need to do. I mean, Fairport Electric's always been the issue with Lethbridge Lane East. That's why we always have the bridge open and controlled so we can get our vehicles out and so forth. This makes it really challenging to get down there and get to those areas. I mean, even the residences that are on there are challenging because now they're running through the OSED gravel pit to get back there and do what they need to do. Can we work around it? Sure. It makes it challenging for that. It's like anything. It's a trade-off of what you believe you want to do. I have no problem with the event festivals. I get it, what they're trying to do, and it's
Bless you.
Canal Days is an artsy crafts event, so they're trying to piggyback on that, and I get it.
And I think in one of the emails we got from Pam Renfro was the impact from last summer and that extended closure of Streetscape really had an impact on businesses. So they're still recovering. And
Bless you.
Bless you.
That was one of the things.
It's always three, sorry.
that was one of the things she had mentioned, so trying to, help our merchants in any way possible.
My brain is fuzzy. Do we normally close Railroad Street for Canal Days? No, it is not normally closed. Okay. So it was different last year because of the
New York State construction.
because of the construction on the
The
Thomas
bridge
Creek Bridge
was really the big
was
issue,
the
yeah.
thing, and then okay, I just want to make sure I had it straight in my head that was not something that we typically do for safety and
Not
for,
typically, to my knowledge,
Okay,
no.
thank you.
Adam, do you have any questions?
No, I think we kind of, whatever the questions I had.
I wish Pam was here because I would ask, is there any way that you can do this utilizing parking only and keeping people, putting up barriers and keeping people out of the streets? So that there was still access to use that street for the DPW, because she talks about using the parking spots. If you could set up at least like one lane down the middle of the street so that if we need to get our DPW equipment out, we can. Whereas if she was in those spots and then utilized some sort of barrier or rope to keep people out of the middle of the street and have a walkway at the end, whether it's a 4-foot or 8-foot walkway in front of the parking spots, I would be more apt to be. It makes me more want to approve it if we can find a way to make the street stay open. I don't know if that's a possibility.
You mean like preserve one lane?
Well, if you've got vendors in the parking spots in front of the storage building, because all that is village property all the way up right to the structures. So if you kept your vendors in those parking spots on each side of the road and then set up a space for your pedestrians to walk by them that they can traverse up and down the street, but yet you have a lane open for traffic. So you've got some sort of barrier, as simple or as difficult as you want to make it, to keep people out of the middle of the street so that if the DPW needs to get through there, they would have access that's not going to be sitting there and trying to convince 100 people to get out of the street.
And I like your thinking, and I appreciate your thinking. It looks like to me they're only putting vendors on the building side.
Not on the other side.
Yeah, not on, it's not going to be on both sides of the street anyway. It looks like it's going to start up, Sarah's nodding her head. It's just that one side.
If I would be willing to support this event if we can keep the street open and not close the street, so that the DPW has the ability to access out to Main Street for whatever they might need to do. Is that possible with the way that she's drawn the map?
Perhaps, whose responsibility is it for the barricades for the length of the street to get out and do that? We don't have the
Hers.
barricades for it. We don't have it. There's no,
Hers.
there's no, huh?
It's her event.
Okay.
It's not Canal Days, it's her event. If she can provide barricades or a
Well, I know we don't
rope
have it,
line
especially for
or
Canal Days. We
something.
don't have anything left.
Right.
And that's a pretty long street. So, I mean, if that's a condition that the board wants to put on to keep that open, I think it's fair. And they have to do that, that's fine, if that's something you guys want to do. I just want to know what the
I'll
impact
ask your
is.
thoughts on the rest of the board. If we're gonna shut down the street, I don't feel comfortable supporting this. But if we can keep the street open, Pam, it's her business, it's not part of Canal Days, she's responsible for providing barricades to keep people out of one lane of traffic so that we have one lane for the DPW to get by. I feel that I could support that. I don't know, you all tell me what you think.
I'd be more comfortable supporting that as well if there are barricades, because DPW does need access in the event of emergency or whatever else happens. They're going to need access in and out of that space for whatever they need to do, and I'd be more likely to support this if there is a preserved lane of traffic in that area, only for DPW use.
Tracy, do you think you could support that?
Absolutely, I think that's a great compromise.
Actually, if I'm looking at it, if it's a 10 by 10 tent, and those are 90-degree pull-ins, parking spaces are at least 18 deep, sometimes 20. So you almost could put the tent on the street side and have people walk.
side, is that what you're saying? Sorry.
No, sorry, so in other words,
Yeah, like 2 lanes of tents with a space in between.
right, but what I'm, go ahead.
I don't even interrupt you, please continue.
Well, I'm just saying there's
leave the road
space
open.
I think there's physical space to do that.
There is space to do it.
Yeah.
We don't need to design it for them.
Right.
We can determine internally where that line is, that they're gonna have pedestrian access, and there'll be plenty. In addition to their tents, which will be, I think, adjacent to the building and so forth, and then you'll have a 10 or 15 or 20-foot walkway corridor for people to go up and down and do that thing. We can work that out internally with the applicant, if that's a condition, based on the parameters that we need to make sure we can get out, and I think it can be.
The only other condition that I would ask
And then,
is,
they're responsible for all their refuse and anything else, and clean up and make sure the site's tidy, but we can discuss that and work that out with the applicant.
will those tents be anchored into the pavement?
I don't think so.
I think
We just paved that, I would hope not.
That's, honestly, you know what? I'm asking that question
I don't think
because
any of the
know.
other ones are, I think most of them are weighted 10 by 10
It even
tents and
says
so
a
forth,
weighted
yeah,
tent.
It may sound like a
yeah.
less than knowledgeable question, but I'm asking it to make
Sure.
sure it's on the record that we understand that this is not okay to dig
Understood.
into brand-new pavement. Anything else anybody else has about this? Do you think you are ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then, can I have a motion to accept the proposal from Railroad Artworks for use of the parking spaces on Railroad Street on Saturday from 10 until 6 p.m. and Sunday, and I don't have the dates in there,
Sunday, June 7th, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Sunday, June
Yep.
7th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, June 6th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., but leaving the street open. That's the
With a
requirement.
barricaded lane as determined
With a-
by the village manager.
Yes.
And any other conditions set forth by the village.
Yes,
Because there's gonna be
and-
things that pop up.
there will be.
I
And
don't
I think
wanna-
that's in the application
the,
anyway.
the
Just
the
wanna
other
make sure, because
piece
they're
of this
gonna be,
is-
and they're gonna be like, well, you didn't
So
say
I'm
that.
putting this in
and-
the motion that the applicant will provide the barricades that need to be approved by either the village manager or the DPW. But they're to be providing their own.
I mean, there's other things that come into play, like we're gonna require insurance, like we do with
Yep,
anything else.
she's got
in terms of-
insurance. She's
I'm
got
just
it.
making sure, like, all those other
Okay.
things that come into
All
play,
right.
so we'll take care of
can
it
I have
from
a
here.
motion and a second for that, please?
So moved.
By trustee Briggs,
Second.
by trustee Nazarian. I think we already did all the discussion that we could possibly do on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then that will be unanimous, and let us know if there's a problem. Okay, we have one other to talk about, which is, let me close this one. Request of Steel Rail Revival, Steel Rail Revival. I don't really want to read this letter because I'm going to be terrible at it on my phone. Is it just the letter, Brian, that you sent?
In the map.
There was a site plan and then
Okay.
a request for the use of the Fairport Junction parking lot.
Is that in the letter?
Yeah, it's in their proposal.
Okay. Thank you again for taking the time to speak with me the other afternoon. I also want to apologize if I sounded a bit, we'll get by that. Okay. We would like to formally request permission to use the village-owned lot adjacent to B-side on Liftbridge Lane East for this year's Steel Rail Revival. Our plan is to begin setting up after midnight on July 24th and to have the entire site cleaned, restored, and cleared by 8 a.m. Friday. So this is weeknights. They're planning to do this. as we have successfully done in previous years. They have not used this lot in previous years, correct?
That's accurate.
Okay. Our team is committed to ensuring that all operations comply fully with village requirements. We prioritize safety, accessibility, and minimal disruption to neighboring properties. The event will feature live music, live vendors, and community participation, all supporting 2 charitable partners. Attached is our updated site plan and layout proposal prepared for review.
Yeah.
Is there someplace else?
I got it on my phone.
Is there someplace else that talks about what time they're planning to have music and in this lot and outside?
It's gonna be essentially all day for that one-day event. There's just,
It's a weekday. It's a Thursday.
yeah.
And how late at night?
It does say, oh no, it doesn't.
And are they going to be selling alcohol there?
All of that. You know, we had some preliminary conversations. I don't want to get in a lot of this in public session about
Okay.
this, but this is where you start getting into event planning and the particulars of this. The more I speak with this applicant and others, the more holes that are in the proposal, right? And so, I mean, I don't, it's just inappropriate to talk about it this time, but there wasn't a plan for restrooms. Oh, we'll have 1,000 people there and they'll just use the bathroom at B-side and Mall Connery's. Like, this is the stuff that we get into day in and day out. It's not against this applicant. It's just, we have these discussions with applicants all the time. Like, that's not acceptable, and I know the proprietors of both those are gonna allow 1,000 people every 20 minutes to go in there and destroy their facilities. And then if you don't provide them, the caboose becomes the new facility on the backside. There's a lot here that has to be done when you're talking about an event like this that brings in a large group of people, which is good, and drinks and restrooms, security, gates, crowd control, paramedic needs. This is a 5,000 person unit. I mean, this is what Music Fest does every year for these things. There's just a lot here. My preliminary conversations I just didn't feel like they were really prepared for something like this. I think there's significant requirements. If this is something that the board would like for us to entertain, I need full authority to go in and say, hey, there's a lot that needs to be happening here. It's not going to be at the expense of the village. When you're talking about an event like this, the magnitude of what it's going to bring, Steel Row, like any other music event, brings in a lot of people, and it is a village-wide event, meaning every restaurant, bar in this community is being utilized, and they're all capitalizing on the marketing of that event, whether you're participating or not. So it brings in tens of thousands of people throughout the village to do that, right? Not just a gate fee of going to that one spot, right? There's a compound effect associated with this. So that becomes a police thing, and this is going to be something where I don't have that, and we just my 2 officers on duty handle this. No, it'll be a thing. And when you start having bigger crowds, it brings in other resources that are going to be required as well, without getting into how that plays out in the public. So, and what that looks like, gate control, refuse collection, all these other things, there's going to be parking lot closures. I'm not verbalizing this to you to provide a negative stance to not do it. I'm just trying to tell you these are the impacts of these types of things, and this is what is required to run a successful event like this. So if this is something you want to do, fine, but there is a lot to this. Initial conversations were, there was just, I just want to use a lot for the day, and I'll show up at 7 and we'll make it happen. That's not how this all works, right? The bars are open the night before. That parking lot's full of 150 people. Cars are going to be left there overnight because they don't want to drive. I'm towing vehicles now at 2 o'clock to get ready for this event, right? So there's just things that are going to have to happen here and how that all works out, right? So it's really up to you whether you want. We can make it
I'm
happen
gonna
from our
pause you.
perspective. I just need to know if this is an event that you would like to
I'm going to pause you.
to work.
And I'm going to ask members of the board if they have any questions. Tracy, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask Brian?
I'm glad we're having this moratorium to figure some of this stuff out, because I think there's some applications that come in strong, they got their act together, and other applications which lean too much, even in the beginning, on the village to become the event planner for them. So if you were gonna grade this as an application, it's like it's not enough of an application at this point. I'm thinking
It's not, and
along
I didn't
those
ask him to get in
lines.
all that, but when our preliminary conversations that are coming in, there's just a lot of holes in it, but all of them are gonna have holes that we're gonna have to do and figure out. And that's why, like, once we figure out the framework and what the standard is and what your requirements are to do these types of things in various lots, we can come up with that. But, you know, there's a lot of costs associated with it, just, you know, doing this that I don't think the applicant has really thought about. It's not gonna be just a plug and play. I do a stage, I bring people in and I sell some beverages. There's a lot of things that are gonna have to come to facilitate an event like this. And I don't wanna do it at the expense of the village.
I also,
And I think they can do it. They run events in the past and stuff. It's just
but all their events in the past have been on private property.
correct.
And there
So-
have been public issues for those events on private property. I know you remember.
They used to
that.
work in the cannery. They used to do it in the cannery
I
lot for a
know
while.
that the weekend, we went to NICOM. Megan and I went to NICOM. We left early in the morning. They had been told not to put signs on public property, and they were stapled to all the poles. They were in the grounds all over Main Street, and our staff had to go out and pick up and clean up after the event. It didn't set very well with saying that we can follow directions. That was back, gosh, that had to be like 2019? Yeah. So Tracy, I'm glad, I don't want to cut you off. I know I just did do you have other questions that you have about this?
Questions about this? No, I guess just making, this is the first time it seems to be moving towards village property versus the festival's been
Sure.
around on and off.
Sure.
In
They've
a
asked them-
variety of forms,
Sorry.
on private property, and
They have asked in the past to basically shut down the entire village and Main Street to facilitate their event, and I pushed back heavily on that. And when you talk about an all-encompassing village event like that, it is a significant impact, and I pushed back on that drastically. But they're looking at it as, hey, we allow for other places, why not me too? Hence why we're having this comprehensive conversation. It's starting to get past the point of just, hey, we're doing some of these things. There's more to these conversations as you're seeing tonight. And if you want to make this happen, we can, but there are going to be significant mandates and things that need to be met. And if they can't make it, or they're not willing to do it and do it right, where it doesn't become a significant burden on staff or the general community, then it won't happen, right? But we got it, devil's in the details. We got to get into that, have more conversations about it. I don't know if he's spoken with some of the areas around there about impacts and how that's all working. I mean, we haven't gone that far because I didn't know if there was an interest to even do it. So I'm not going to have all these massive conversations getting into the weeds if it's something that is not a consideration of the board.
I feel like in this current form, with the information that we're given, I cannot support doing this without a significant increase in the level of planning and responsibility coming from the organizer of the event. Like, this is not enough information to base a good decision on at this point, to me.
Without having significant impacts on our staff.
Yeah.
at least start with the current form we have.
Right. And we don't even have the times, I'm looking at Heidi's letter. There's, like, I don't even remember who brought it up, but there's no time at which
Start and end
music
time.
would start and stop and.
Yeah, they're gonna go during the day on a weekday, on a Thursday?
Right, like,
Yeah.
there's not enough
know.
information to,
I'm good with not enough information at this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so, if there are no further questions, can I have And just remember, you don't have to make a motion and you don't have to second it if you don't wish to proceed with something. Can I have a motion to approve the Steel Rail Revival Festival on July 25th, 2026, utilizing the information that we have in front of us this evening? Can I have a motion or a second?
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Trustee Briggs.
Wait a minute. Because the next thing I was going to say is the application we did for Artworks, we approved it with conditions.
Right.
So.
That's a
before-
choice of the board. But it
Right.
has to be opened up on the board first, and without a second, it doesn't open.
Can we finish our discussion before we open it? The one thing I wanted to say was, this applicant would still have until the 15th, right? I just want to be fair and equitable moving forward, to supply a ton more information, fill out the application, do all of that, because we just said we would, right? We would look at all applications with no guarantee that they would be approved, but if we deny this, or whatever happens, this particular applicant, to be fair and equitable, could try to scramble and get tons of stuff in.
Well, what's going to happen is if you guys don't authorize this or approve it, it's going to be, well, I'll tell them that it wasn't authorized due to the information we have right now. So then the conversation's going to happen, well, what do you need? Let's plan this thing. Let's go down to the devil, the details. Let's tell them.
Application.
And we
But it's
just
not going
said
to tell me
that we
everything
want to
without
put a
going through it.
moratorium.
It's not going to do it. It's going to be a significant undertaking. And I have no problem with that, but it's not going to be giving you an application. It's going to be, well, what are we requiring to utilize that space in order to do it based on our knowledge of doing this for decades? That's where the expertise comes in. And I have no problem doing that, but doing this at an event is going to require a significant paramedic presence, fire presence, police presence, public works presence, cleanup on a weekend when it's done. These are the things that I'm trying to get you to understand the impacts of this. So, and there's no cost associated with it. We're just going to say plan it, make sure you can facilitate and move on. I don't care if there's a cost. If that's what you guys want to do and that's the benefit to the community, but I need to go back. He's going to ask me, what do I need to be successful? What do I need to make you feel comfortable to do this? And I got to be able to share something with that because we're going to plan this event for him when we do it.
In other words, you're saying either we say no, and at least no this year, and don't take the time to put something together this year, or we leave the door open for him to submit something.
Yeah.
We have,
Your guidance needs to be,
So-
Brian, we want to make this thing happen. It needs to work right. Bring it to the finish line and make it work, whatever it takes. We can do it. I'm just really telling you, it's going to require all of that.
right.
So, here, I'll do it this way. So Tracy has a motion for accepting this application the way it is.
No. Tracy's reneging that. That's not what she is agreeing to.
Okay, so let me go back. I am asking for a motion from the board and a second to approve this application as is for Steel Rail Revival Festival on July 25th, time unknown, on Railroad Street, or excuse me, in the Fairport Junction parking lot, as is. Can I have a motion and a second? Okay, with no motion given, that fails to be lifted off of the floor, and there will not be a vote on it. Are you looking to do something different, a different motion, or are we just not going to vote on it?
given the rule that we made a half an hour ago, I don't think we can preclude this applicant from applying again.
Okay.
I mean, that's the decision we just made. So I don't know that that's,
Okay, so what I want to clarify is if the applicant applies again, it's going to require our staff to do all this work to get it ready. And
For
that-
successful,
for a
review.
successful application,
They don't
are you
know.
asking our staff to spend the time to help guide this applicant over the line? Or is it going to fall into the range of something that we can't support at this time and would fall into the moratorium? And remember how many staff heads we are down and that we are in the process of rebuilding the staff. So I'm putting that forth to you. I'll keep making suggestions of motions, but I guess what I'm asking, I'll come to you in a second, Tracy, is are you ready to move on? Or do you want to deny this application? What would you all like to do? Tracy, you had your hand up, you wanted to
I
say
guess
something.
I need clarity on just because I fill out an application that the village staff is going to commit to making it successful. I guess I see we're missing that middle step of if he chooses to fill out the application, it would still come to the board, and at that time, the board could say, you still don't have enough information, it's a weak application, and and then deny it. I guess I don't see how we made that leap to, well, if he fills it out, then we'll make it happen. I guess I see a disconnect.
No, I don't think that's what Brian said. I think he was saying, if you want this to happen, we as a staff will work to help make it happen, but they don't have the bandwidth to do the work to help make it happen. Am I stating it correctly, Brian?
That's correct. I mean, if we are open for business on public property, how are they going to know what we're going to require or want in order to make it successful? So you have to go through a due diligence process. It has to happen. I mean, we give them no guidance to see what's successful or what we need there, because right now the system is flawed. We don't have a process. We're sitting here for 2 hours talking about this because we don't have a cohesion about what we're looking for or why. That's why I'm before you asking, tell me what you want. Let's develop that framework collectively, and then we can facilitate these things. But right now, we don't have that.
Right.
And so it's really hard to facilitate events or in good faith have conversations with these folks if we think it does or does not have a potential, or it may or may not be approved, right? I mean, so you have to go through a process to determine, hey, what's the validity of that? What's the feasibility of it doing it in that location? What are some of the, like anything, is there's pros and cons. There may be security measures, there may be access issues, there may be public right-of-way issues, there may be issues with occupancy load. They're not gonna know all those things. We don't have designated event planners doing these things, like true bona fide licensed planners. I mean, these are folks that saying, hey, I have a great idea, I believe. I have a will and desire and a ton of volunteers, and let's make it happen together, right? Which is great, right? But it still has to be done. When you're taking public property, you are saying that you endorse these events, these behaviors, the people that are doing it, the causes, all of it. So you're vested in that now, and you're vested in its success because it's happening on village property, it's happening in your community, and for right, wrong, or indifferent, that's associated with your brand and everything else that comes with it. So you have a desire to make it happen. So
I feel like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, you can go.
Well, I feel like, and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like Tracy's question is, why do we have to help him with the application? Is it because it's
Because
so
there's not one
ambiguous
person
at
that's
this
going to
point?
come in here with an application worthy of your review and approval if we don't assist in that capacity, because it's our property. They're not just saying, here, let me organize this thing on property, on everything they control. Outside of them, their event, they control nothing else and have no purview under or legality to do so. It requires that relationship. It requires that
That like level of investment from village staff
100%.
to make it happen. So for me, I feel like, or I guess my question is, if this is an event that's not happening in that parking lot, will it still happen in its previous form? Can it still, like, is that something, I don't know that you can answer it.
I think he's already got some bars.
well, we don't
It's not-
approve that because it's
that's
all
what I
on
mean.
private property.
That's what
right.
I mean, like, if we are like, yeah, no, this is something we can think
I
about
do
for
believe it'll
next
still
year.
continue. He's just trying to bring an added flavor and an element of something
More.
else and more, correct.
I just
Which
don't-
if I was him, I'd be asking for the same thing.
Right.
And to do something a little more grandeur, obviously it's gonna bring in more people, it's gonna bring in more sales, it's more donations to his cause and all of that, I understand it. Does
don't
the
think that-
village want to continue to offer more music festivals and these types of things and
I think
part of
right
what-
now, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, you
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, right now, given the conversation we just had about the moratorium and the stress that is put on our system and our facilities, I think, he's obviously more than welcome to reapply and like turn a form in and whatnot, but I feel like this would be too much of a lift for our staff to do at this point in time.
You know what I was thinking, Heidi? I was thinking maybe we should alter our moratorium to include, you know what I mean? That if we're still willing to accept applications for the next 2 weeks, for whatever they are, maybe our moratorium shouldn't be on public space.
Well,
know,
that's the
No,
whole
that's the whole
point.
point, because
That's the whole
otherwise, if
point.
it's private property, they can do whatever they want. They don't need permission from the village to hold an event on private property. This is just specifically for the utilization of our space, our venue, and our services to provide them with a successful event.
So the challenge, as I understand it, is we've set the moratorium. Good. We're going to be able to talk about the criteria that you're going to be able to use to filter things through before you bring it to the board. The problem is you don't have that criteria until the 15th.
if we don't have preliminary conversations with any applicant,
Right.
what comes before you is going to be incomplete. So you're going to be I don't want you making incomplete decisions with lack of information so that you can't, because it may sound great in theory, and then by the time I get to it, once you said, oh, it sounds pretty good, make it happen, the devil's in the details, and it's going to require this, that, and the other, whatever the case may be. You should get something where saying, hey, we've evaluated it, we've vetted it, it meets in theory the philosophies, the events, the parameters in which you would be willing to consider something, and this is the application and its merit. That way you can make a decision off of good information and due diligence that's come before you. Otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, I can come in and say, hey, this event's just here, it sounds great in theory, but you just never know. And that's okay, I don't mind doing it. If it's something where we want to be a festival community and a community that has lots of events and offerings and so forth, and that is something that you want to facilitate, it's one of the things that's important to you in the community, then we can do that. But this isn't going to end here because there's just plenty of interest, and how do we go about approving those, authorizing them, what have you.
So
I mean, we get stuff on scribbled napkins. They don't know what they don't want. It sounds good in theory. We get everything. A conversation that is, oh, we should just do that. Would you think that'd be okay? Let me call the chief and see if that's fine. Like, it's just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I just want to be able to give them a good framework saying, hey, these are the types of things, and if you're going to do that, I can be confident, or the team, whoever they're working with, can be confident saying, hey, if you're going to do this, these are the considerations you should be thinking about setting forth in the plan, and these are the things that require on whatever lots and public spaces that we're willing to offer people that want to make application to us. And every site's different in how you gain access to it and what you do and all those other things.
So one of the reason why I'm kind of laying some of that out there is a couple of fold. One is the previous motion where approving or not approving as is. To me, that still allowed, kept the door open for them to come in and say, okay, well, fine. What do I need to do? Brian, let's work with me on this.
If he knew what he
Whereas
needed, he
if
would
we
have
come in-
presented it to you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If he knew what he needed, he would have presented it to you.
Right.
And I'm just going to ask for one question. How many meetings have you had with the event organizer already?
I haven't this year, none. I've received emails and phone calls, we've chatted, but what I told him is that don't go down too far down. I mean, these are the things in theory when he was talking to me, I was like, hey, these are some, in my experience, some gaps in your proposal that you're going to want to consider should you want to facilitate an event like this, blah, blah, blah. But I said, let me see if this is something the board wants to even consider first before we start, planning this whole thing and going down the rabbit hole with all of it, if it's something they're not willing to do. And I kept telling them, and I have the email chain saying, hey, the board would like to discuss how they facilitate events in the future. So as of right now, before I speak with them and grab some guidance, I can't give you clarity or how we were going to proceed forward. And he says, no problem, I get it, and let me know when you have that. That was
But
the
I
last
don't even know
communication I
when
had.
his event is, what time. In what
He was telling me
submitted.
something early in the morning, so it's going to be all day. By the time they get it, start setting up, doing their whole thing. But they're going to want to set up the night before. You don't set up for an event where you plan on having thousands of people
it's
and
hard to
hoping
feel
everything
prepared.
works out okay between 8 and 10 so you
So-
can open at noon. I mean,
I'm going to let Adam finish because I interrupted him. I'm sorry, Adam.
That's fine. So yeah, the reason why, one of the reasons why at least stood out to me was like the as is, because it then just says, okay, fine, we're not going to vote on it as is, but then that still means we would entertain this application by the 15th. And the thing that for me I'm torn about is, I mean, I like music. I think it's cool. I like some of the ideas there. Flip side, all the other things we've been talking about, which is our staff is stretched out too much, and I think another way is hearing too is we're trying to squeeze water from a stone now. And while I think I love the event, I like the idea, I love the charities that go for it. I just, my understanding of the situation is we would stress out our departments too much to do it this year. Particularly given, the level of detail that's in there. So I guess what I am circling around is, do we say, put a motion forward to approve or deny
That's
the
fine.
application? Because at least at that point, it gives you direction, it gives the applicant direction,
The way we
rather
would do that
than
is,
us saying not as is, them spending time working something out with you, for us to still come around, have this conversation, and say, hey, we're still stressed, thanks for spending all the time on it, but see you later. I don't want to waste folks' time.
so you wouldn't put the choice of, you wouldn't put deny in there. You would put accept, correct? That would be
Oh,
the-
right, rather than,
It would just be one. You wouldn't put both.
right,
Do you want me to put another motion out?
sure.
Can I have a motion and a second from the board to accept the steel rail revival application for the date of June 26th, time TBD? I'm sorry, July, I said July, didn't I? Oh, sorry, July 26th, 2026, time TBD for the Fairport Junction parking lot
So moved.
by trustee Banowski.
Second.
Trustee Woika. So it's opened. Any last questions or comments before we take a vote?
Well, the last one is, depending on how this goes, if it's not approved, are they still going to come back and try to do another? I mean, and can they? I mean, I suppose they could.
They can, right? And they're
They
gonna
can
say,
try.
well, what do I need to be successful? That's the question I'm gonna get. And I can, more than happy to have those conversations and talk to them about what it's gonna require, but I'll have to dig in more and really figure out what their security plan is, what it's required, what they're doing. I'm 2 officers down. I have a
Right.
chief that most likely won't be here for a month or two by the time they give notice and other things that we're gonna discuss later. It just makes it somewhat challenging.
It's an event
Can we
on a
make it work?
weekday.
Sure.
That's my other thing. It's a weekday. So I guess the other thing that I'm asking you, Brian, is how do we make this clear from a direction standpoint and make it easy for you moving forward? Or is there no way?
Yeah, because it sounds to me like if we don't approve it, he can still reapply, and if we say it needs amendments, he can still reapply, like,
I will make my comment right here. I don't support having a music festival event where you're shutting down a parking lot Wednesday night, Thursday during the day, and may not reopen until Friday on a weekday. I don't have any idea what time the music is going to go to, and I don't support that disruptive of an event on a weekday in the village of Fairport. I don't think it's fair to other businesses, and I don't think it's fair to residents. Honestly, I get tired. I can deal with Canal Days, and I can deal with Music Fest, and I can even can deal with with listening to Oktoberfest in my house. I don't need any more days that I get to listen to music festivals on Liftbridge Lane inside my house. And I don't think that I'm alone in the village feeling that way, as much as I love music. So those are my comments. Does anybody have any other comments? Okay, all in favor? Hearing none. All opposed? Aye.
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 Anybody abstaining? Then it fails. Okay. And I don't know how you change the event to get over some of the comments. I don't know how this event can be changed to get over some of the board comments. But I think it's in line with asking for a moratorium to be on additional events in this village.
There was a lot here with the details of this event.
Okay,
Real quick, do we want to take 5? Does anybody need to go to the bathroom, get a drink of water?
sure.
Why don't we do that?
Everybody gets a bio break, even people who are sitting in the audience. Welcome back to the Village Board Work Session meeting. It's 8:26 PM. I'm going to ask the board if they would be willing to go over to the supplemental agenda, which item number 2 is a resolution by the Village Board of the Fairport in favor of sustainable practices and policies. And I'll ask for a motion, and then we can discuss this. So this is on the back of your agenda. It's, I think there's maybe one, was there like one word difference between this and the original one that went out? The one that you put on the back of here? This, it's pretty much the same. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the whole thing to you all, and we can ask for a motion in a second, and we can discuss it. Okay? So, a resolution by the Village Board of the Village of Fairport in favor of sustainable practices and policies. Whereas the Village of Fairport believes that climate change poses a real and increasing threat to our local communities and our global environment, and is primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels, and whereas the effects of climate change endanger our infrastructure, economy, and livelihoods, increase dangerous heat waves, droughts, and floods, harm our farms, orchards, and ecological communities, including native fish and wildlife populations, spread invasive species and exotic diseases, reduce drinking water supplies and recreational opportunities, and pose health threats to our citizens, and whereas we believe that our response to climate change provides us with an unprecedented opportunity to save money, improve affordability, and build livable and energy-independent and secure communities, vibrant innovation economies, healthy and safe schools, and resilient infrastructure, and whereas we believe that taking action on climate change provides us with the opportunity to achieve a just transition from fossil fuel-based economy to clean energy economy, and whereas we believe the scale of greenhouse gas emissions reductions needed for climate stabilization requires both immediate and sustained substantial efforts, and whereas we support clean energy economy with efforts towards net zero gas emissions while protecting our natural resources and improving our quality of life, creating economic opportunities, developing innovative technologies, ensuring equity, inclusion, and building a brighter future for all New Yorkers. It is hereby resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Fairport expresses our support for sustainable practices, policies, and initiatives to help support and facilitate a more livable, vibrant, and healthy environment. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
By
Second.
trustee Waika, seconded by trustee Nazarian. Okay, so we're open for discussion. This is really a boilerplate of a resolution that does not call out any specific policies that you must conform to. It's meant to talk about all the different contributions that there are to the current situation, and it ties very nicely with our sustainability plan in that it just says, essentially, here's the action. The Village Board of the Village of Fairport expresses our support for sustainable practices, policies, initiatives to help support and facilitate a more livable, vibrant, and healthy environment. That's it right there. So does anybody have any questions or concerns about this resolution?
I just think, I sent around a couple ideas. I just think it's too soon. I think we should talk about updating the, that our current sustainability plan was adopted in 2010, and it's been updated by a community group in 2023, and now we're beginning discussions in 2026. I just think it's premature to adopt this resolution without finishing the review process. I see this very well being in the review process somewhere, maybe ending up in our final document. I just think we're putting the cart in front of the horse. It's wonderful, but I think we should stick to the task at hand and update the current policy first.
Okay. I think Heidi, I just want to preface this as this was asked as an Earth Day resolution, not so much having to do with this. It was really asked of the board to consider doing this as a celebration. And it doesn't say that in here, but it was asked as a celebration of Earth Day, which was last week. So just clarifying that. Heidi, go ahead.
And I do think that this is not a plan. It is just a resolution, to me, saying that we are in favor of sustainable practices and policies. It does not tie us to anything. It just says, this is what we believe is important, or we believe that this is a priority for us. It doesn't outline any specific plan or actions. It just says that we believe in sustainability for our community, to me. And that is why I brought it to the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. I see it, and if I understand too, that the way that this is drafted up, it's not tying us to requirements, but it's saying that we're interested in pursuing practices and policies without identifying specific practices and policies. So I think, this is something that establishes our commitment to these ideas. We're seeing a lot, already, like around, the community. Right, Goodwill is recycling. Or has with the governor has set up recycling for textiles there. I think that's something that is fantastic and something that we could all get behind and support. So, I think showing the enthusiasm for that from the board without tying us in makes me enthusiastic for it.
Just to clarify, what we would be approving tonight is this.
Yep. Just that statement.
Okay. Thank you.
So I didn't have my mic on. Yes, just that statement. And essentially, I read all the lines of that resolution. Typically, what you do is you read the title and then be it resolved.
Right. Thank you.
Again, I feel absolutely support it, but would it be best practices to wait and let the community have a shot at commenting on this before the five of us make a commitment for every resident in this community? Just give them an opportunity to before we move forward.
What is the commitment that we're making? Because I don't see a specific commitment outlined in this, aside from the fact that we are in favor of sustainability practices and policies. I don't know what we're committing to based on these words here.
I was asking that maybe we should let anyone from the community weigh in on that before the village board makes this resolution for everyone.
I don't know what there is to weigh in. All we're doing is we say as a village that we support sustainable policies, and clearly we've already stated that in this document, and it was also reviewed in 2019. Yes, it was redone in 2023, but we also went through and reviewed it in 2019 and removed some of the things from it. So we're not agreeing to do anything. We're not agreeing to any actions. We're just saying that we as a village, that we support sustainable practices.
And this idea of a resolution by the village board was brought from residents to me, and I feel like sustainability is important enough that I brought it to the rest of the board. So this came from the community as well.
Anything further that anybody would like to discuss? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be unanimous. And that is done. Okay, that takes us to Sustainability Plan Review. All right, what you have in front of you is the 2023 proposed draft with segments of the original plan that was attached to the end of it, mixed in with it. And if you look at it in color, I will send it out electronically to everybody. What I had asked the team to do was to take each of the goals. So there's an energy goal, there's actually nine different topics. And to go through and add to those topics with newer and updated ideas. What I went through today is you had in your email their plan, and you had the old plan with the table at the back. I went through and combined some of the chapters of the old plan that were missing from the new plan. So that would be procurement, green cleaning, and environmental toxins. So those are completely from the old plan with no new input to them. And this document is designed to be a set of goals and then the actions to help support those goals. Kind of like when you look at the comprehensive plan, there are a series of goals. The goals are designed to support the value or the mission statement and of the comprehensive plan of the village. And then underneath the goals are opportunities that you can take action to support those goals. Some of the goals that are in this plan are not going to apply because it was a group of volunteers, and some of the things that they've added to the plan are things that we don't have control over as a village government or even Fairport Electric. So what I wanted to get to you to get a look at tonight was to understand how this is set up. So each section is going to have a definition that's new, with the exception of those 3 chapters that I told you about. And underneath it, it's going to have some of the village accomplishments that came from the old plan, and those were added by the Sustainability Committee. Underneath it, underneath some of the accomplishments are going to be the proposed updated action steps. Those are in general all new from the committee. Some of them are going to apply, some of them are not going to apply. And we may find when we go through the final version, there are more things that we would like to add that are within the scope of what we can do as a village. Some are out of scope, some are in scope. How are we going to find out the difference, Mayor Julie? I'm going to give this to the staff heads who run the departments that have direct knowledge of this. For example, if we talk about green cleaning, I would send that section over to the DPW and say, what of this is valid? Is there anything that we're missing that we could add? Is there anything, and it's from the old, that green cleaning happens to be from the original version with some of the 2019 updates in it. So I wanted to get this in your hands in this form so that you could look through each of the chapters, but it's going to come back to us. It's got to be reviewed by staff because it doesn't have all the details. And like I said, I think when you get back to the end of it, there's a chapter towards the end where it's like, tell everybody who's building it, it might be under
Communication.
building development, that everybody has to use a piece of an they have to use electric appliances. Or tell them that they, encourage them, I don't think encourage is in there. I think that you have, and we can't do that. That's not within the realm of control that we have. It's not in our scope. So some things are very much in our scope. Some things are reach goals that what were we talking about? What's the energy source that Fairport Electric uses, that Chris Hartman has? Geothermal. Geothermal, it's a great idea, but we can't afford to do that. But it should stay in this plan, because if the opportunity ever came up, it's part of the plan of like, well, in that world where the money is no object, if money was no object, I'd say let's bury all the electric lines in the village of Fairport. Unfortunately, money is an object that we have to contend with in budgets and all that good stuff. If money was no object, I would encourage everybody, every building, we should all be doing geothermal. It doesn't quite work out that way in reality, though. So that's what you have in front of you. Lorenzo's had the very first page up on the screen all night long. I will make a PDF and send you a PDF. I just finished combining this. You may find things that don't quite make sense. I learned how to remove section headings on a Mac in Word. It's not the same as on a PC, but it should make some sense. You also have both of the original materials. Brian sent those with the agenda for you to review. I am going to send this out to our department heads, and I just wanted to start having initial conversations because we have been putting this off and putting this off and putting this off. And I would say that maybe one of the recommendations under communications is that we annually adopt a resolution, for not only for Arbor Day, but also for Earth Day or tying it to sustainable practices. I don't even know if that's in here, but it might be under communications as a way to communicate back to the community the way that you support this. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have a time frame except for maybe if we said tonight is our work session. I don't think any of us are going to want to be ready to talk about this during our village board meeting in May. We will have plenty of other things to discuss. How about if we put a pin in bringing this back and maybe we cover 1 or 2 chapters at our May work session? Does that sound like a fair?
Great.
I don't want to give everybody so many chapters that you're like, I don't know if it was in this chapter or that chapter, but let me get it out to staff and give them some time to review the chapters that are important to them, and they can get feedback, and I will work to incorporate that, and then we can start to go through it. Okay. That was the hardest part of the night. I spent all day doing that. All right, so we are going to move to, am I missing anything else yet? All right. The last thing that we have is a motion for an executive session, but I'm going to wait to give that so that I can tell everybody who's joining us here live or who's online. We're going to move to executive session, and that will be the end of the meeting as far as what occurs in this room. I want to let you know that there's an upcoming village board meeting Monday, May 11th, 2026 at 6 p.m., a village board work session Monday, May 25th, 2026 at 6 p.m., and the village market, farmers market, opens May 1st. It runs from 8 until May 2nd, I'm sorry, Saturday, May 2nd. The first Saturday in May is the opening day of the market. Please, as much as we love dogs and pets, please leave your pets at home. And if you refer to the website, there are other do's and don'ts that will be finalized and put up there for policies inside the market. We hope that everyone will start joining us. And then May 9th is the Spring Fling, where members of the business community in Fairport also join us at the market. And with that,
I thought the work session on Monday, May 25th is actually Veterans Day holiday.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So-
I thought we had already moved that to the 20.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Yeah, I
sorry.
thought we'd already moved it to the
Memorial
26th
Days.
when we did our calendar. Did
Well-
we move that to the 26th when we did our calendar in January?
Not the work session, we always adopt the board meetings if they fall
Okay.
on holiday, but not the work sessions.
All right. So Go ahead, Tracy.
It's, because it says, propose an alternate date. So if that is Memorial Day,
Yeah,
Tuesday, I have a conflict, but I'm open anytime Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
can you do a Wednesday, Brian?
I'm actually going to be gone that whole week, Monday through Thursday. And so I didn't know if, I mean, you should have everything where I don't need to be there. If you want me to be there, we can do it the week before or the week after. More than happy to do that. We'll have all the information you need by then. You tell me what works for you.
Would the board want
The week
to
of June
get together
1st?
on Monday, May 18th, or Monday, June 1st?
I can do
Keep it
either
on a
one of
Monday?
those.
Either Monday works for me.
Okay, you said
Just
which
stay
I
on
one?
can do
Monday?
either one.
Okay. Can you do Monday, Tracy?
Mondays are open for meetings.
Okay.
Here.
Mondays for meetings.
Adam, do you think you could do one of those 2 Mondays, either the 18th or June 1st?
Confirm it here.
Why don't we say June 1st, push it back?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we could do that. Either
June,
works.
is June 1st okay for everybody? Is June 1st okay for you, Brian?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let's move it. So the work session meeting will be moved to Monday, June 1st, 2026 at 6 PM here in the Village Hall Boardroom. And anything else? Can I go on to the executive session motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, can I have a great evening? Thank you for joining
Thank
us. And for anybody online who's joined us for this evening, thank you for checking in with our village board meeting. Can I have a motion by the village board to enter into executive session